Hey guys, so today I want to elaborate a little bit on a topic I shared in a recent blog post on how to improve your Tango with yoga. If you haven't read it yet, you can check out the link below and give it a read and then come back here. Because what I'd like to talk about today is emotional awareness and why that's important in Tango and how yoga can help us to cultivate emotional awareness. So we all know that Tango is a really intense dance, not just the dance itself, but the experience of learning, of going to milongas. It can all be very overwhelming and filled with what we might call drama, right? Which maybe some of us like that drama, and maybe that's why we're attracted to Tango, right? But if we don't have a way to manage all of these intense emotions, it can be really anxiety provoking. And it's very common to go to a milonga and feel a lot of anxiety. I mean, who wouldn't have anxiety when you're kind of being watched all the time, right? There's constant, every time you go out and dance and you want to have a nice intimate experience with someone, there's probably like 10 pairs of eyes on you, wondering if they want to dance with you at some point later on. So that can be intense. And then of course, there's the whole ritual of asking somebody to dance and will they reject me? Even if it's just with our eyes, it can be a challenge, right? Especially for newer to dancing at the milonga. I think that can be a very strange custom to start to learn how to use. But it's a skill just as any other skill is in Tango, just as learning how to lead and follow the most basic sequences. So the question is, how can yoga help to cultivate emotional awareness? And for me, the experience has been that there's always in yoga a practice of observing without reacting. And this shows up in the asana practice, as well as if you practice meditation, of course, and mindfulness. So maybe if your type of yoga is not necessarily the asana, this is a huge part of yoga, which is really just observing yourself and observing what comes up and allowing it to be there. And the thing is that many of us run from intense emotions, right? That's kind of a natural thing to do. It's like, whoa, I don't want to feel that, so I'm not going to put myself there in that position. But a lot of growth happens from facing those intense emotions, right? And so if we never allow ourselves to see that, we'll never have the chance to grow. We'll always remain in the same place. And that's the same for Tango, right? If we never allow ourselves to see perhaps our flaws, right? Our things that we're not quite so good at, if we never look at how they're not working, we can't move forward, right? And so in yoga, one of the things we do is let's say we sustain a pose for a while and we start to feel, oh my God, I have to get out of this pose, right? That feeling comes up of like, I gotta get out of this, I gotta run away from this. And instead, we really just try to maintain that pose, not react, and see that it's okay. It's okay to be there and it's not the end of the world. And that's very similar to when you practice that regularly on your yoga mat, when you're confronted with emotions that come up in any context off the mat, such as the milonga or your Tango class, instead of having that urge, well, actually you will have that urge probably, right? It doesn't mean that urge goes away just by practicing, but your reaction becomes more patient. Your reaction becomes something to observe rather than to run from. Okay, so there is another side to this emotional awareness. Always in yoga, we try to look at the duality of things. So, of course, you want to challenge yourself a little bit, to be in those uncomfortable places where growth can happen. But it's also important to build awareness around what is and isn't good for you. This is something that I find myself playing with a lot lately in terms of going to different milongas and where do I feel is a good environment for me and who do I feel like I want to let into my embrace, right? So how does this come up in the yoga practice? Well, we want to find our edge always. So if we're in that pose, we're sustaining it for a while, and we start to feel a pain that's not a good pain, that's a sign to get out, right? And so being able to recognize what kind of pain is going to give us growth, right? And what kind of pain is going to be bad for us. And so that's the same thing when we're putting ourselves in these contexts such as the milonga or in the class where, some of us might have the tendency to beat ourselves up a little too much about not doing well. And so we also want to be soft and gentle with ourselves and know what is our limit. And in the yoga practice, we're always searching for that limit. We're always trying to see where is our edge. How can we both push ourselves to grow, but be gentle enough with ourselves to give ourselves, our body and our mind, what it really needs. And in there we find this beautiful honesty of where we're really at. So in our tango practice, we also want to look for this edge. We want to ask ourselves, am I trying hard enough? Am I pushing myself hard enough to get to that next level if that's what I really want? Because the thing that makes me feel uncomfortable might be exactly the thing that helps me to improve. However, we don't want to put ourselves in a place where we're constantly frustrated, we can't handle the anxiety, and it's creating a really awful experience, right? So we want to find that edge, and having a yoga practice where we're constantly searching for that in our bodies and our minds. We're constantly in that observation mode. We're constantly kind of going inside of ourselves to learn where that edge is. It helps so much when we are confronted with that same thing in tango. Now, certainly both in yoga and in tango, some days are going to be easier than others, right? And that's why it's a practice, both for yoga and tango. It's a practice, it's showing up and taking that time to learn about yourself, observe yourself, and try not to judge what's going on, not attach this is good or this is bad to it, but embrace all of it as part of your learning process, part of what is helping you to grow as a dancer and in life, right? Because both yoga and tango really do offer us this amazing way to get to know ourselves, to interact with others, to understand how our world is evolving around us. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks so much for listening, and if you have any questions or feedback, I love to hear it. Please feel free to write me, find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram. I'm always open to hearing whatever your thoughts are on the topic. I love geeking out about both tango and yoga, obviously, so please feel free to get in touch. Thanks, guys.